are designed to keep the meeting progressing along, assure that all points of view are heard and considered, and to provide common courtesy to everyone. We ask that you observe the established meeting rules when addressing members of the town, staff, and/or members of the Planning Commission. At the beginning of your presentation, please state your name and address for the record. We ask that you address your questions to the chairman. If necessary, the chairman will call on a commissioner or staff member to address your questions or comments. Once you have given your input, please return to your seat. We ask that persons speaking avoid the use of improper language and profanity. Please only address the agenda issues. Speakers should strive to present original viewpoints and avoid redundancy. We ask that you also stay on topic of that specific agenda item. Everyone, please remember, we are here tonight doing the people's business. It is a very important responsibility for all of us. Now, I ask that you, if you're able, please stand for a moment of silence for prayer and reflection to be followed by recital of the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag. After our moment of silence, I'm going to call a scout down to lead us in the pledge. You want to come on down? Okay.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have established that there is a quorum, and therefore we have a quorum for tonight's proceedings. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Mark?
Yes, sir. Agenda items 5, A, B, and C have been withdrawn by the applicant.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. I didn't see anything come up on the screen.
Give me 1 second.
All right.
Sorry.
We good?
Do you have it now?
Yes.
All right.
It just popped up.
All right, the next item, approval of minutes. Are there any amendments to the minutes from the September 18th, 2025 meeting?
No, sir.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the commissioners on the minutes?
None.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
I need to abstain.
Okay, but nothing's come up yet.
Bear with me.
All righty. We good? Okay. Tonight, we have 2 action items to review and discuss and consider in our public hearing, and 1 discussion item. So moving on to the first action item. It's a request for approval to extend fiber cable for AT&T from the north side of Parkside Drive near 11471 Parkside Drive to the south side of Parkside Drive to serve the property located at 11440 Parkside Drive, AT&T applicant.
Yes, this item involves fiber cable being installed actually under Parkside Drive from the north to the south side. This would service the Turkey Creek Medical Center. This work will be conducted with directional boring. The installer does have a bond with the town to ensure that any damaged areas are restored. This is for AT&T to be able to provide service to the medical facility. The staff recommends approval of this right-of-way request, subject to obtaining a right-of-way permit from the town's engineering department.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Do we have someone from AT&T here, representative?
They may not have anyone. I told them it was probably pretty straightforward since it's just one section of bore, so.
Okay. Are there any citizens signed up?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any comments or questions? None?
None.
All right, we're ready to vote. All in favor of the motion, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? No? All righty. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, item 4B, discussion of public hearing on a resolution PC 25-5, to amend the Farragut Municipal Code Appendix B subdivisions, Article 3, subsection A, streets, to provide for content-sensitive street cross-section requirements as illustrated in a new appendix to the subdivision regulations, referenced as Appendix F in lieu of existing requirements to the subdivision regulations. Town of Farragut applicant.
Sorry. This was discussed at two previous planning commission meetings. It involves an amendment to the subdivision regulations as those regulations would otherwise apply to certain streets that are being identified in a new appendix that would be part of the subdivision regulations. We have a number of appendixes that are associated with the subdivision regulations. So these cross-section would be Appendix F as part of Resolution PC-25-05. So just to give you a little background, in the subdivision regulations, Article 3 is the section that deals with the requirements for public improvements. There's a subsection for streets in that section, and that provides for the different road classifications that are on our major road plan. That section provides for what the required right-of-way width would be, the street widths, how the drainage would occur along the streets, and other design-related requirements. There's also the requirement that we put in the ordinance a few years ago to comply with the town's pedestrian and bicycle plan, and that's basically trying to provide for all users of the transportation system, not just motorists, but also pedestrians and bicyclists. So originally, as you may remember, this was seen as an amendment to the major road plan, but after talking with the town attorney about this really, we're not changing the classifications of streets on the major road plan. What we're really changing or proposing to change are the regulations that would apply to the streets that are identified in Appendix F. So it's really an amendment to the subdivision regulations. So the town attorney has looked at the resolution, and he's in agreement with the language and the approach that we're proposing at this time. The town, one of the things we try to do and have done since our founding is to be proactive with our infrastructure and to try to not be reactive, to try to stay ahead of it. So in the subdivision regulations, in that Article 3 section, and I was talking about earlier, for streets that are not interior to subdivisions, which are generally classified as local streets on the major road plan, those streets that are not interior to subdivisions are classified usually as collector and arterial streets. So collector streets collect traffic from streets that are internal to subdivisions, and they transport it to higher classification streets like arterial streets. So some examples of collector streets would be like Allen Kirby, Boring, Evans, Boyd Station. But then, the arterial roads that they're transporting those to would be things like Watt Road, McPhee, Kingston Pike, Concord Road. So anyway, the requirements for those different road classifications are in that Article 3 streets section. And those same requirements are the requirements that the town uses as the baseline for when we have road improvement projects. We refer to those requirements that are in the subdivision regulations. So if somebody develops a subdivision off of a street that is a collector or arterial, what they're required to do in the town is to improve that frontage along the subdivision. So again, we're trying to keep the infrastructure up to a certain standard to accommodate growth that's happening on that particular corridor. So that approach, looking at our current subdivision regulations, we have some streets that got built under those regulations, Everett, McPhee, Old Stage, and we started kind of looking at those and as thinking about maybe an alternative way to look at the street cross sections. And this first really came up with Union Road when we started looking at improvements to Union Road. And there were requests to try to retain some of the rural character of that road and not over-engineer it. So as part of that process, working with the community, we lessened the lane widths. We made some other design exceptions that would otherwise be required in our subdivision regulations that we have on the books. So that really is kind of the genesis of what we're doing tonight, or what we're proposing. And it's really just applying that context-sensitive approach to some of the other streets in the town that are either substandard or they're not complete in terms of providing for all users of the transportation system. So, and those streets are identified in Appendix F, and I'll go through those here in a minute. There's also language that would be in Article 3 that would provide the town or developer with the opportunity to consider this same approach on other streets that may not be part of this appendix. So it's something that I know, we've got some of these streets that are a little rural in character, and I'll show you some examples of what we're trying to do versus what would be required if we went by what we have right now on the books in the subdivision regulations. So anytime that the staff presents an ordinance or a resolution to you all, I always go back to the plan that we have. That's the basis of what we're trying to do. That's why we're doing this evening, is we have some strategies in our plan that talk about providing for all users of the transportation system. Town's done a good job with that over the years. And then we also have some language in there that talks about minimizing impacts to the natural beauty of the town. So trying to combine those two things is what we're doing with this particular resolution. Let me be clear about all the streets that are part of this appendix. None of them have road projects that are in the works at this time. We are not proposing any road projects on any of these streets. All this is an alternative of a cross-section that, should these streets be improved someday in the future, it would be a different approach than what we have in the current provisions in our subdivision regulation. And frankly, a much less invasive approach for the people that live on these corridors. So again, we don't have any road projects on any of these streets. I just want to be clear about that, because I think there's been some misinformation or misunderstanding. All this is just looking at what we have. Is there a more context-sensitive way to get an improvement that would, benefit, really, frankly, the people that live on these corridors? So I'm just going to go through. These slides were included in the packet, but I think they really demonstrate visually what we're trying to do versus what would be otherwise required. And I'm just going to go through the streets that are in this appendix. The first one's Allen Kirby Road. If you look on the left, that's the context-sensitive cross-section that's part of this resolution. That's what we would be looking at. That is the same cross-section that Bridgemore's concept plan was based on, other than the open drainage, I think, is something that we're proposing in this case. Again, trying to keep more green space and less hard surfaces, less curb and gutter, where we can avoid curb and gutter, more grass strips and things like that. So if you look at that on the left, that's proposed on the right for a major collector street, which is what Allen Kirby is on the major road plan. That's what would be required if we don't adopt this resolution, and that road gets approved, and we have to go by the requirements that we have on the books right now. So that's two 12-foot lanes, curb and gutter, and a shared use path or sidewalk on both sides of the road. Second road is Boring. Now, Boring Road is a little bit different than some of the others because obviously it's in transition and there's potential plans to do the closed part of it. But should that road ever be improved, what we're looking at on the non-school portion of the frontage is going to two 10-foot lanes and a shared use path on one side with a landscape strip on both sides of the road. Let me pull that up here. And that road currently has a lane width of 8 feet, so we would be widening the road slightly on that one. But compared to what would be required on the right, again, this is another major collector street. You'd be looking at a shared use path sidewalk on both sides of the road, curb and gutter, and two 12-foot lanes. Evans Road is another major collector street. On the left is the context-sensitive cross-section that's part of this resolution. That's two 10-foot lanes, open ditch drainage, and a shared use path on one side of the road. Now, when you get into the details of a road design project, you know, it's shown maybe on one side of the road in this resolution, but those things can get changed during the more detailed design plan process. I mean, that's happened on Virtue Road. Originally, we felt like the trail for Phase 2 of Virtue Road would be on the west side of Virtue Road, but after looking at the topography and doing more surveying and engineering, we figured out that, well, maybe a boardwalk on the east side makes more sense. So those are things that could come up when you get to a more detailed design plan set. We don't have any of that right now and won't have it for years. But this is, again, just the starting point for what the expectations would be versus what would otherwise be required. So that's what we have on Evans Road, the difference there you can see. That would be required to have, again, the two 12-foot lanes, curb and gutter, and a shared use path or sidewalk on both sides. Heron Road is a local or minor collector street, and it's kind of a dead-end street. Again, there's no plans to do anything with Heron Road. I want to be clear about that. Currently, the lane widths on Heron Road are 9 feet. We would propose to keep them 9 feet. The only thing we would be looking at on Heron, if it ever was a goal of the community and the board, was to try to incorporate some kind of pedestrian facility on one side of the road. Because you do have Founders Park and you have the Turkey Creek development on the two endpoints of that road. There is a way to get through circuitously through Sweetbriar, on a sidewalk network. But there may be some value in having a path along one side of Heron at some point in the future.
Some of that's in the parent responsibility zone as well.
Yep, that's another priority for that. So, but if you look on the right, that's what would be required if we don't consider this context-sensitive cross-section, and that's two 13-foot lanes, extruded curb, and a sidewalk and or shared use path on both sides of the road for a minor collector. North Campbell Station is the only arterial road that's in this appendix. It's a minor arterial. This is the section north of the Overlook Apartments. And that one, the main change between context sensitive and what would be required is a slightly less lane width requirement from 12-foot lanes to 11-foot lanes. But that road has 9,000 to 10,000 trips per day, so it's very different than the rest of the streets that are in this appendix. And then finally, Red Mill Lane is a minor collector. And that section of road was identified as a potential candidate for a pedestrian facility because you have all the Kingsgate, Turkey Creek Woods, all those developments to the north. And the only way to get down to Turkey Creek Road and Anchor Park is to get in your car. Nobody's going to feel safe walking along Red Mill Lane or Heron Road. So that's why we looked at those two streets as potential candidates someday for some kind of pedestrian facility on one side of the road. Now, if we went by what would be required, you'd have a facility on both sides of the road with a much wider road width of 13 feet. We would propose to keep the lane width on Red Mill Lane the same as it is now, which is two 12-foot lanes. So that's an overview of, I think, visually showing you what the differences are for each of these streets with what would be in this resolution versus what would otherwise be required. Do y'all have any questions or comments? I do have some people that have signed up to speak on this.
I need a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, public? Anybody from the citizens?
I do have some people that have signed up. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Let's see, the first one is Jim Roberts. And after Jim is Donna and Mike Pyle. And these are three minutes, so just so you're aware. Okay,
Is
all
your,
right, no
is your mic
problem.
on? Is your mic on?
Yeah, his,
Push the green button.
The green button on the right.
Okay, I can't see
Thank
that.
you.
Anyway, my name's Jim Roberts, and I was concerned about what I'd heard on Heron Road. I live on Heron Road. And I thought it was closer to some decision was going to be made tonight. And from what I've seen, I really don't have any, if I hadn't signed up, I wouldn't be down here right now. So anyway, as he gets closer, I'm sure we'll be listening and I'll be listening. And if I think you need my input, I'll tell you then. But right now, everything's fine.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Who's next?
I have Donna and Mike Pyle. Just one, okay.
Hey, Mike Powell. I live on Heron Road, beside Mr. Roberts. I hope he didn't leave on me. The concept I understand, wanting to change it from one side of the road instead of both. Both would be very expensive and really hard to do. You move it to the west side, you're going to have to move all the utilities. I'd like to see it impact the cost to do either one, and the feasibility of even doing it. And will they, when they decide to do this, will they contact all the residents in Sweetbriar?
I'm sure that some type of notice is going to go out at that point in time. There's no plans for it to be changed and developed right now, but at that time, because we got to decide not only the cost, but which side.
So that's
Which side of the road.
basically what you're doing tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you from my experience, I've been in construction my whole life and grading. Be tough to do both, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Daniel Head.
Good evening. My name's Daniel Head, and I live on Evans Road. And so I'm coming here with some notes from another neighbor. I understand that back in January of '22, there was notices sent out to the people who lived on Evans Road that, as far as I know, I never received. But the current proposal was going to be on the north side of Evans Road. So I just want to give you a picture of what that looks like. In fact, when I was here last time, about a week afterwards, I'm coming up the hill from Virtue, and as I crest the hill, a deer was coming across, I'd have slammed on my brakes. And I turned left right there into my driveway, so I wasn't going particularly that fast. If you put a crosswalk up there to come to the south side, you got kids that are gonna be coming from the farm subdivision to go to the park, and that's gonna be very dangerous if kids are coming across that crosswalk. Furthermore, if you go to the south side, which is the side that I'm on also, but if you go to the south side, I've got 30 trees I've planted on there that are 25 feet high. Already called and see what the cost of moving that is, about $150,000 by 30, 25-foot trees that are Leland cypresses. We built those things to have the privacy in the back there where our property is. I don't want to have those trees gone. Additionally, on that left side, the south side of that property, our land sits 6 feet lower than the road. So you're gonna have to put a retaining wall. Now, my understanding from another neighbor was that a gentleman who lives up there further going toward McPhee hired an attorney that met with the people, BOMA or whatever, and got it moved from the north side of Evans Road to build it on the south side. I guess the question is that a true statement?
We're not here to discuss that tonight. That's not an issue tonight.
Well, it's partly an issue because if he got it moved from the north side to the south side, I think that's pertinent to understand for the people who live on the Evans Road on the south side.
I can address that. I'm the mayor, I can address that.
Okay,
No, that's not a fact.
that's not a fact.
No, there's no design.
Okay,
I mean, you're at a point to where you're looking at 3 years away, maybe, if we.
At
do what
least.
we're- So, there's no design.
okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think it's important to note that this is a guideline as well. So whether you put it on the north or south is still debatable, depending on how the topography lies. So those decisions would be made when you get into the design phase.
Said earlier, we had to do the similar thing with Virtue Road, which we are in the design stage now. Originally, we felt like it made more sense for the trail to be on the west side, but it ended up, after looking at it and doing the more design, detailed engineering and survey, and we figured out that the east side was actually a little bit easier. So those kind of things, the idea is the cross-section as a whole is the guide. It could be, the trail could be on one side or the other. There might be grass strip reductions in different places. I mean, those kinds of things always happen when you're doing these detailed road design projects.
If they decide to move it to the south side, is that considered eminent domain?
No, sir, there's no eminent domain being discussed. We're not
So
even.
I'm just curious if that is the situation.
Typically on right-of-way acquisition, they will talk with the property owner to see if there's some sort of a solution that they can come to. A lot of time, looking at right-of-way acquisition, it may not be that you even need property, okay? On that particular street, we have got a lot of right-of-way, okay? And that's what you look at, is how much right-of-way you got that you can build in. Now, if there may be a situation where, let's say, for instance, that you had a change in the topo to where you went uphill or downhill, then a lot of times you have a situation where when you do that, if that backs up to somebody's property, you may have to do some slope easement. And what I mean by that is we would have to cut into the bank if it was going up. Like yours is, you said it's going down. Well, if it was going up, we'd have to cut into that bank. And then when we cut into that bank, then what we'll do is we'll take and cut the grass out, okay? Feather it in the way we want it feathered in, and then they'll put the sod back, okay? And that would be what you call a slope easement. And most of the time, all that can be done between the property owner and the folks that are doing the actual right-of-way acquisition. So it's, I think eminent domain is something that whenever you have an impasse, then that's when that is even discussed. We're so far away from a discussion, even in design. I mean, it's, we don't know. We get down to it, then welcome everybody to come back and listen and have input. So right now, we're not there, so.
I might chime in for a second. What we're trying to do tonight is get away from a one-size-fits-all approach, which is what we have currently in our regulations. So if the board, mayor, and alderman determine that the best use of taxpayer funds is to go and completely bring Evans Road up to the current standard, we're going to get a much more invasive design, a design that requires a tremendous more grading, more right-of-way, and it's going to have more asphalt on it than what we're proposing tonight. What we're trying to do is give both the planning staff, the board, mayor, and alderman, the planning commission, and then the engineers who are doing the design, trying to give them more flexibility so they can design something that's more contextually appropriate for some of our roads that are more rural. So we think this is a good thing for the community, and for some reason, there seems to be some folks out there on social media or next door or wherever that's spreading rumors that, hey, this is going to happen and you're going to get an interstate down Evans Road, which is not the case. What we're trying to do is do something that's a lot more sensitive to the needs of the community and trying to find a balance between a lot of grading and a lot of asphalt and the rural character of the community, as well as trying to provide some pedestrian connections between different areas of the town that we don't currently serve. So again, what we're trying to do is get away from the one-size-fits-all approach and come up with some flexibility that allows for better design and less invasive design.
I have one more speaker, Greg Wyberly.
Evening. I'll try to be brief. My wife and I have to get to a baseball game.
We need your name and address.
Craig Wyberly, 12603 Evans Road. Now, that conversation I just heard has been kind of the theme I've been developing every time I come before one of these committees, that y'all need to talk to us. So that conversation was a good conversation. This week, I engaged town staff to have that same conversation. I submitted questions in writing to them, which they declined to answer, but they did agree to do a workshop with all the residents on Evans Road, explain everything to them, have a more than 3-minute discussion on what's going on. So I ask, with that process in place, what is the hurry tonight to pass this particular appendix? I mean, there's plenty of time. We'll be meeting within the next few weeks. If there's no project planned, if it's years away, what harm is there in a few more weeks to satisfy Daniel and me and the other residents on Evans Road and on Allen Kirby and on Heron Road that what you're proposing is reasonable? Talk to us. Explain it to us. Don't just make this blank statement up here, well, we think we're going to put a greenway there, but the design may change it. Come out to Evans Road. Put some white paint in the grass. Show us where it's going. That's as simple as it gets. So again, the town staff has agreed to this meeting with us. The residents will participate fully. I think that's the route to go, and just postpone this decision for another day till everybody is happy with it. Thank you. Any questions? Good. Go Cardinals.
Anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay.
I
Before we,
actually do have something. Mark, do you mind pulling up Mr. Wyberly?
He's trying to get to a baseball.
He's got to go to a baseball.
I'll make it really quick. Will you pull up the Evans Road, what we have in existence and what's proposed? 2 minutes. All we are doing tonight, the only thing we're doing tonight is saying, okay, first, Mark, how long have those subdivision regulations been in existence in the town?
The ones on the right. At least till 2006.
Okay,
And
so.
they've been there for several years, yeah. They've been
Okay.
in there for several years.
So for almost 20 years, if at any time during that 20-year period, Evans was upgraded, it would have been upgraded to what's on the right.
That would have been the guide that we would start with, yes.
All we're doing tonight is saying, you know what, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So how about we replace with what's on the right with what's on the left instead? That's it. It's not
Yeah.
about where the sidewalk is on one side or the other. It's just, would you rather have this or this? Because what's on the right's what you got right now, if the road is ever upgraded.
Right. Well, everybody on Evans Road is a very reasonable person, very reasonable. And if you put the 6 of us in a room, we could come up with a formula for how to do Evans Road the way that would satisfy all the residents, it would satisfy the town. We don't need to vote on this now because once that consensus is made, it can move forward. And then you can wait your 3 years to do your construction.
I totally understand. Mark, would it be possible, since the town's done all of this work, and, well, I see one more person just handed you a blue card. Would it be possible to pass the resolution if we remove Evans Road from this resolution so that we can pass it for everyone else?
Well, you can do whatever you want to do.
Would that satisfy you,
mean,
Mr.
that's up to
Wyberly?
you all.
And you think that the residents on Evans?
I can only speak for Evans Road. You know, there's people here from Heron Road, excuse me.
You hear what she
There's
said?
people speak here from Heron Road and Allen Kirby. I'm not gonna speak for them. You know, if they're happy with what you got,
I'm
fine.
not asking you to speak for, go ahead,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Did you hear what she said? She asked you if you wanted to remove Evans from the conversation and leave everybody else in. Okay, that's what she's asking you right here. It's
Yes.
not whether
Okay.
what they
Again,
did or what, it's
there-
not that, okay?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there's a process in place to resolve all these controversies, to bring it to conclusion.
I really hope that when you have this conversation, the conspiracy theories, the what-ifs, the coulds, this could happen, we could fast-track this, we could, we're here trying to do what's good for this community. We're trying to reduce the impact and preserve the rural character of this road. And all we're getting from social media and from what we're hearing is that we're trying to screw the people on Evans Road. We're trying to hurt Evans Road. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what we have in place right now is utterly destructive and that's what would have happened on Union Road. And I fought so hard for Union Road to get to a place where we can get to a place for the rest of our community and not do McPhee Road on Evans Road, not do McPhee Road on Allen Kirby. We see the result of McPhee Road. We've seen what it's done for the people who try to walk on McPhee Road and they feel like they're on a racetrack. That road design is I'll go into it later, but we're trying to have an honest conversation. We're residents too. We live here too. We're not trying to do something underhanded or behind the scenes or we're just trying to make things better in an area that the road is substandard. It needs to meet engineering designs, engineering standards. There's certain things that are non-negotiable. The 10-foot lanes is non-negotiable. It's gonna, because the amount of traffic, line of sight is non-negotiable. That's with the design speed. Design speed doesn't have to be 40 miles per hour. Could be 30, could be 25. That would be really great. But that's the struggle here, is that we're trying to do something good, and the conspiracy theories that come out of it are just, it's mind-blowing.
That is the purpose of the workshop. That is to clear up all the issues. So when I stand here and you say that you're gonna decide for me and my fellow neighbors what's best for us without even talking to us, that is just ludicrous. As simple as it is, don't interrupt, as simple as it is to talk to us in a workshop, everybody at the same table, everybody can speak their mind, everybody can understand the issues. So I've worked hard to get this far with the town staff. They have a list of 14 questions to answer. Answer the question. So far, they haven't.
Okay, I've got something I want to say. This has been on third time on our agenda, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this has been discussed for over 6 months. It was sometime last year. There were workshops on this. There have been workshops. It's been brought to us 3 times. Now you're getting involved and you want us to start it all over again. They're willing, the staff's willing to meet with you, that's fine. But we got to make a decision tonight to lessen the impact on everybody in this room and everybody in this town on these roads. We have to lessen.
It's-
Well,
whoa,
it's
whoa.
the third time.
This is not an argument. You're done, okay? Your 3 minutes is up. She was speaking, you're done. We're moving on.
So I mean, I stand by what I said. Let's remove Evans and pass it with Evans removed.
I don't recommend doing that.
We got another.
I have one more speaker that just signed up, John Miller.
Green. John Miller, 503 Heron Road. So if you could go to Heron Road real quick.
Oh, sorry, I gotta start the clock.
503, yep. John Miller. Yep. It's on the side that doesn't have the sidewalk. West side, south side. Can you pull up that map? So you were looking at, I'm a little confused when I look at this map because you keep on saying on the right side is what you currently have and what the left side is what we're going to. But I'm looking at your sheet here and it looks like, to me, on the left side is what it says proposed and the other one doesn't.
Now, what's on the right side is what would be required for that street if it were ever improved based on the requirements that we have in our subdivision regulations right now.
Right.
The one on the left proposed is the context-sensitive one that would be the alternative that we're considering as part of this resolution. The lane widths would stay the same as they are now on the one that we're
But
proposing.
with the resolution, what you're saying is you would turn it into what's on the right-hand side, if I'm right?
No,
What's
you're-
on the
it's
right-hand
opposite.
side, if they wanted to do that road project, what's on the right-hand side is what would be required tomorrow. It's what we've
Right.
it's already been passed
That's
almost
current
20 years
regulations.
ago.
So the current regulation right now is what's on the right-hand side?
Yes.
And we're trying to make it what's on the left.
We're gonna replace the right-hand side cross-section with what's on the left.
Okay,
The
I'm just looking
right-hand
at-
the right-hand side cross-section on all these exhibits will be eliminated. And then with the left-hand side of the exhibits will be then the new adopted cross-section. And we're not, tonight, we're not worried about which side of the road that the walking trail is on. We just wanna know conceptually that, hey, we want a walking trail on these roads somehow, and that which will be determined at a much later date.
On one side or the other?
One side or the other.
I
And
get
there's
that.
natural
And
constraints.
I agree with that.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm for that. Because if you go down Heron Road, halfway down Heron Road, you have no sidewalk.
right.
Exactly.
And they
And so
they
it-
just paved it. So I'm just saying, I live on the non-sidewalk and I know there's a lot of questions.
And
where-
again, it's conceptual. We're not designing which side of the road it's on tonight. We're just saying, hey, let's do away with the old cross-section and then let's adopt the new cross-section, which is a much smaller, less invasive, less asphalt, cross-section.
Okay, I was getting it backwards, so I thought you were going to go to that one instead of that one. Less is better.
Less is better, and that's what that's what we're here for. That's what Louise has been battling for years is, hey, and we used to call this road diets. Is, hey, why do we have to do it this way? Just because there's a TDOT manual out there that says do it this way? Yeah, are there other ways to safely move the traffic from point A to point B and get our pedestrian connections?
No, that's
So-
what I was gonna talk about.
Sorry, did I steal your,
Yeah,
I stole
well,
her thunder.
I'm gonna
Go ahead.
give you some.
Mark, is that everybody? All right, Louise, you've got the floor.
I appreciate that. So, as many of you know, this is something that I've been working on. Union Road was an eye-opener. When we got funding for Union Road, I had several citizens come up to me and beg me, we do not want Everett Road on Union Road. And I didn't want Everett Road on Union Road. The Everett Road design was over, I couldn't imagine what that would do to Union Road. Union Road is an old, if anyone's not aware, is an old farm road. It used to be a dirt road, and they simply paved it. There's no design, there's no engineering, and it's in desperate need of being replaced, but we didn't need to do what we've done on Everett Road. So obviously, at the time, we had funding, and I kept hearing from the engineers, we have funding, we have to do 12-foot lanes in 40-mile-per-hour design speed. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not. So I started to dig in. And I had an education. I had to get educated. And then I had to educate the residents. And then I needed the residents to help me, which was where Vice Mayor Myers stepped in. So let me give you the background of why we're here today and what we're doing today. And I apologize for you guys that are waiting, but you'll get an education on stuff. Decades ago, when transportation engineers were establishing design parameters for the interstate transportation system, our highway network, they had to consider high-speed travel, safety, and efficiency. The design parameters they adopted included establishing a design speed higher than the intended speed of travel. To make sure sight distances were sufficient, they needed sufficient lane width to allow for some degree of driver error and correction without getting in an accident. The engineers did this so well, they thought it would be good to extend that design philosophy to local road design. For decades, this philosophy is what drove road design for our community's collectors and arterials. At some point in the mid-90s, the wisdom of applying the highway design to local roads began to be questioned. Context-sensitive design was first introduced in the early 2000s, but the transportation engineering industry was slow to adopt it. Finally, in 2011, AASHTO adopted context-sensitive design in what transportation engineers call the Green Book, which is this baby here. AASHTO is the American Association of Highway and Transportation Organizations. The AASHTO Green Book, officially titled A Policy on Geometric Design of Highways and Streets, is the standard reference manual for geometric design of roads and streets in the United States. No transportation engineer is going to design a road without consulting this book, or feels that there's something in this book that they need to deal with for design, road design. With AASHTO's adoption of context-sensitive design, the transportation industry finally got on board. In 2015, TDOT adopted their multimodal access policy. From that, they developed the multimodal project scoping manual, which was adopted in 2018. The scoping manual includes context-sensitive design. The adoption of the 2015 policy and the 2018 scoping manual is what opened the door for approval of our design exception request for Union Road. We went from 12-foot lanes and 40-mile-per-hour design speed to 11-foot lanes and 30-mile-per-hour design speed, which had a significant impact on that road, on that corridor. Our experience with Union Road was eye-opening. We no longer needed to design our roads in a one-size-fits-all manner. This amendment to the subdivision regulations that we are considering tonight is the result of a very long process. The community development director and the town engineer together reviewed these roads and collaborated to develop cross-sections that the engineer is comfortable are safe parameters and the community development director is comfortable protects as much of the existing character of each corridor to the greatest extent possible. That has never happened in the past. In the past, they were silos. The engineering made the determination, and we had to work with that. Them collaborating on all of these road sections is something very special and unique, and I'm thrilled that we're doing it. You all know I've been complaining about these subdivision regulations for these standards for many years. So this all evolved out of our Union Road experience. Personally, I can't in good conscience put off this decision. The existing standards of 12-foot lanes, travel lanes, 40-mile-per-hour design speed, 5 feet of curb and gutter, one asphalt trail on one side and 5-foot sidewalk on the other is absolutely unnecessary on the collectors being considered. Leaving these existing standards in place means to dig up the corridor, flatten it out, and rob the corridor every bit of character it currently has, only to build a road that is too fast and too wide. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, one more. Chester Carball. Oh, wait.
Glad to see you all. Chester Carball, 12401 Butternut Circle, live in Sugarwood. I've lived in Farragut since 2003. I'm grateful that you're considering something like this. I've been in construction all my life, before I moved to Farragut and afterwards. I've always wondered why the streets were built like they were, with curb and gutter and as wide as they were, when we've got large sections of Kingston Pike that doesn't even have a curb and gutter. So I'm here to give you the voice of thank you, because this will really help. I think you can do 3 projects for the price of what you're paying for one of your ones you're doing right now. So, and I know we like to think that the state always has the best guidelines, but in my opinion, you're taking your independence back and doing what needs to be done for the town itself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chet.
All right. We've got a motion. We got a second. We've heard from the citizens. Are there any other comments or questions from the commissioners? All right, if not, time to vote. All in favor of the motion, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, I believe the motion passed unanimously. Let's see where we're at.
That one that just pointed out.
Yeah. All right, now we're at 5D. Discussion on a concept plan for West End Phase 3, 129 West End Avenue, Sprinkle Engineering applicant.
Yes, this item is just for discussion purposes only, to give the designer and the applicant some early feedback from the Planning Commission on this proposed liner building. It's about a 9,000 square foot building. It would be along West Point Drive, just southwest of the intersection of West Point Drive and West End Avenue. Originally, in the comprehensive land use plan, there's some concepts for this part of the town center that did encourage liner building. So this is kind of helping bring that to fruition to some extent. They did look at having a liner building along West End Avenue, but they felt like that would block a lot of the businesses that were in the building. And so they ended up proposing what is on the screen there with the building along West Point Drive. There would be some building and parking modifications that would lead to a reduction in parking, but there still meets the requirement for the parking space allocation for town center requirements. The property, by being in the mixed-use town center, they are given more flexibility on the building placement, and that does help a lot with keeping as much of the parking as they need for the rest of the development and this building. So the building is actually only 10 feet from the right-of-way of West Point Drive. So that's one big benefit of this being in this zone, is to give you more flexibility with how you place buildings. By being in the mixed-use town center, however, and being a new building, it does have to meet either be a 2-story building, look like a 2-story building, and then also meet the face brick requirement for the architectural design of the building itself. This is very conceptual, and it's really, frankly, hard to tell exactly what percentage of the building is what. I think the applicant would like to try to architecturally match the existing building to the west, but that's not going to be close to 75% face brick. So that's something that, the Planning Commission has considered these kind of situations, but never really within the mixed-use town center. And in that part of the town, it's actually a zoning requirement to have the face brick. So I understand the logic of the applicant's point there to try to, blend it in more with the existing building. But I think if they do pursue that and they don't want to go with the face brick requirement, that it probably would have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals by it being in the zoning ordinance. So, and they could present that to them and their justification if they wanted to proceed in that direction. But that's kind of an overview. This is what the building would look like. When we initially met with the applicant, they were looking at trying to go with a two-story building. But I think they've, as far as I know, they've kind of come back to a one-story building with a height that would have the appearance of a two-story building. So that's kind of an overview of this. I thought it might be useful to bring this to the Planning Commission just to give the applicant some feedback from your all's perspective. Because I think in general, to me, the concept of it is a great idea. It's what we're trying to encourage in the mixed-use town center, to try to bring the buildings up closer to the street and create a more active space and things like that. But there are some considerations that will need to be vetted out with this. So does anybody have any questions for
I
me?
have a question,
Yeah.
Mark. I know that your one alternative is to leave this standard in place as it is and go to the BZA, or possibly amend the ordinance to provide a little bit more flexibility, because West End isn't the only older shopping center in our mixed-use town center. We also have Village Green. And if they want to propose new buildings, and they have plenty of parking also, we certainly would want to, you start making it look like a sore thumb, like these two things don't go together. I know that when we dealt with that with the development where Anytime Fitness is, where he struggled with how to make these buildings at least look like cousins, that we may want to build a little bit more flexibility into the ordinance itself, with the idea that we may be dealing with this again down the line. And going through the BZA is, I don't know that that's entirely appropriate, because the BZA is really, if you have a hardship, is it not usually? It's not about.
Yeah, I mean, I think a text amendment, if that's the feeling of the commission, would probably be a cleaner way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you do have some other buildings in the mixed-use town center that are pretty large. And, the question is, you'd probably want them, clearly the new building to be definitely much more compatible material-wise
Certainly.
than what's existing. But you also don't want something probably that looks completely different.
Yeah,
And out of place, so.
yeah, how do we find that
Yeah,
that
that'd be a
marriage?
cleaner way to deal with it, if the applicant doesn't want to do the face brick, and they would request an amendment to have that revisited, rather than going to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but.
And that would be obviously ultimately a decision for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, because
Right.
we've been amending an ordinance, but.
Yeah. And we've amended several provisions over the years in the mixed-use town center, like with drive-throughs, with building heights. If a building's more than 2 stories, and they have to have a concept plan and those kinds of things. So it's not unheard of. It is a little bit of a different situation with the building that's in the parking lot of an existing building, so.
Okay. Mark, is the brick the only concern we've got here, the amount of brick?
We had some design questions when we reviewed the concept, but again, it's very conceptual, but nothing, that was the biggest items, was the architectural compatibility.
Okay, I think I'd like to bring the applicant up. I've got a question that kind of needs to go to him as well, if we can do that.
I agree. All three, yeah.
Well, I'll just, Chet, you can come if you want to.
Come on
Chet.
up. Tag team us.
I'm Dan Britton, and I'm the architect.
Okay, my question here is, okay, you're talking about 75% brick? Is that what we're looking at?
That's what's in the ordinance.
Okay. Then when we look at the coloration, bring it up as far as the other picture, Mark. When I look at that, I see what looks like to be brick along the bottom, and then you've got something, whatever it is on the top, whatever,
Yes.
or that's in between that and the top, actual top of it. So this is red brick that's on there now?
Well, the color of the brick would match the existing buildings around to complement, you know,
Okay.
the what's out there now.
Okay, that's good. Now, when you look at the rest of it, what color is that?
The colors haven't been set yet, as Mark mentioned, this is very.
Well, I mean
conceptual.
existing.
Oh, the color.
If we're trying to match.
Yeah, it's reds and browns, it's beiges. I mean, if you go up the West End, you know, it's a pretty big center. And there's quite a few different color variations as you go through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to point out the top elevation there, which is the least amount of brick. You know, as Mark pointed out, doesn't meet the 75%, but the other sides of the building are pretty much all brick.
Well, what I'm getting at is there's different colors of brick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, so far up, it's red brick. Okay, and maybe so far up, it's whatever color brick.
Sure.
That matches the existing color of the buildings that are there right now. You're meeting the brick requirements. You're just going about it a different way. I would prefer to do that as I would to start changing to where it would affect even future things that you've got that may happen on the property that y'all own now, or other, you know, like what Luis said, we've got other buildings that at some point in time that will be upgraded, and we can't just really start, you know, changing. So I think unless somebody else has got another opinion, I think you can color brick to match whatever you're trying to match as far as the existing color of the building. In other words, if the bottom part of it's red and the other part of it's tan, then, and it's whatever the material is that the other part is on the older building, I would look at possibly matching that color with that color of brick.
I think what the applicant's trying to do tonight is just kind of get our general feedback on the concept. Quite frankly, when I look at your elevations, I don't think you're that far from 75%, because you get to count all four of your elevations.
Is that what it is,
Yeah.
requirement, 75%?
Yeah. And so I think what the applicant's really trying to do is, so to be in, I hate to say compliance, or compatibility maybe with the rest of the West End, is they're trying to say, hey, we'd like to use some stucco up on the facades where the signage goes and where you have some of the lighting all the way up to the parapets. And so, but I don't know if, Chester, if you guys have done the calculations on this, you're probably pretty darn close to 75% already.
Yeah, we've got them per elevation, but we haven't averaged them all, but we'll do that.
I think you can average them. I think that we've allowed averaging. I don't think we've required necessarily 75% on every elevation.
It's a little bit different in the architectural design guidelines, it gives you the ability to average it in the town center part. But then in the zoning, it talks about the face brick being on all the elevations, the 75%. So it probably is just something that needs to be cleaned up. I think that would be some flexibility that you're talking about, is just going by the architectural design guidelines, which is 75% net facade of face brick.
In my mind, the architectural design guidelines, it has always kind of superseded the zoning when we got to the MUTC. And so
We need clarity.
we probably do need some clarity. Obviously, the applicant, you know, we need to take out the ambiguity with it. I do think that you do have a couple of options with even your existing front elevation to put in some false windows on that front. I think it's a little funny looking to have the false windows on the rears and the sides and not have any on the front. I mean, I see at least two up there. That might be a good opportunity to run the brick all the way up to the parapet. When I'm talking about two, you know, basically if you had like basically the third section from the left and the third section from the right on your front elevation, see where the little skinny area is? The lower where the parapet's lower. I mean, that would be a good candidate to run your brick all the way up and put a false window up there. And that way you're still kind of tying in with how the rest of the design at West End is, especially after the renovations that have been done over West End, which really look great and really made a great attempt to try to help bring it more into compliance. But I think when you do that, and you take the average of all four sides, I think you're gonna meet that 75% without us. I personally, now, I'm not a BZA member, personally, I wouldn't be excited about granting a variance. The text amendment, probably not a whole lot excited about it, but if we need to clean up some language to give you the flexibility to do a really good job of trying to meet the intent of the MUTC and the architectural design standards, and still have good design compatibility with the rest of your shopping center, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, anybody's expecting you to mirror image exactly what you've done. And so, and I think you guys have made a real good attempt here. So I think you're on the right path. I think your site plan looks great. I assume you guys have already looked at your impervious surface before and after and making sure you're not causing any issues there. Your net, if you're having any net changes, you may end up losing some of your grandfathering with your stormwater.
They actually have less coverage.
Okay, well, I couldn't
than
really
what they
tell. I
have.
couldn't remember. I do see some detention
Yeah.
up there, which is awesome. So that's great. That'll keep you guys out of the sticky mud on dealing with some of those issues, which would create a bunch of issues. And so I like where you guys are going with this. I think it's a great use of your property, and it also, takes out a bunch of asphalt and does something a little bit different.
Sure.
And quite frankly, I've never seen that parking lot even half full. In 30 years being here and looking at that parking lot, I've never seen anywhere. Maybe there was a festival one time. Well, you got a bunch of kids waiting for, you got a bunch of moms waiting for their kids picking up, so.
3:30 to 3:45.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, that's not your responsibility, your job to provide parking for all those parents that don't want to get in the school traffic, but it is what it is. I think you guys are going down the right path. We'll need to clear up about the 75%, but I do think you do need to meet the 75% brick. And again, we're not worried about colors tonight. I mean, quite frankly, we can kind of, that's down the road a little bit. So as far as feedback from me as one commissioner, I like what you guys are doing, and you're going down the right road.
And we can get those averages to you tomorrow, Mark.
Yeah, I think if you did some of the window treatment like Noah's talking about, maybe worked up some more brick on the front, and with the other elevations being all face brick, you may already be there.
I think you're already there, yeah.
Probably, yeah, I would say.
So maybe a mood issue.
Yeah, maybe some other commissioners want to pipe in and
I
give you
did
guys
want-
some feedback.
I did want to ask one question, because I know with this building going in, I guess one or two of those on on that far end, those two existing businesses will kind of be blocked from view, although they're very hard to see anyway from the street. Is this an opportunity to put in some kind of monument sign for them, or an opportunity? Those businesses back there are hard to see from the road. And obviously, I like the idea of being able to have any kind of street presence from all the school people that they're there every day seeing. And it'd be nice for you guys to be able to have some street presence, or the ability to see some of those businesses back there. I don't know if you're planning on a monument sign. I don't know if it's allowed.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
this-
actually, they could put monument signage out there, and that, I guess it maybe hasn't been proposed in the past because it's so far off at Kingston Pike, but they definitely have the public streets to do it. They got West Point and West End, so you got potentially two monument signs facing each of those streets.
Yeah, your
so.
challenge with the monument signs are going to be, you have a bunch of tenants, everybody's going
Yeah.
to want their name on it. And so that's going to be hard to
But
keep
then
everybody happy.
Yeah, but it's something for you to consider in all of this is,
Yeah, that probably won't go over too well.
and really tall, because we really like to, how about a billboard? Because
pylon
we
sign,
like
yeah.
billboards.
You guys are looking for feedback tonight, so that's what we're trying to provide you.
Sure.
Your rear elevation, I do think it's important for those rear doors to have glazing on them instead of just steel doors. We don't just necessarily want it to look like the back of a shopping center. We want, even though I know it'll probably be used that way, and that's okay.
Sure.
So you guys kind of think about that. Your tenants may just end up tinting the windows, which is fine, but you do need to use glass on those.
Okay.
Those rear doors. Your tough parts with this are going to be your mechanicals, your meter bases, and I guess you can put your condensers on the roof, but trying to make that all look nice. And that's part of when you're in this kind of downtown environment, it's hard to make all four sides of a building look nice. So.
I've got a question. Is
sir.
the 2 stories a debt issue, second story? Or
I
is
believe
that-
so, yes.
Okay.
Just from a financial standpoint, not speaking for the owner, yeah.
Well, I'd love to see a 2-story building. They don't have any in Biddle property, and a nice restaurant with a casual dining on the ground floor and better dining on the top floor, or whatever. I think there's a need for two-story buildings somewhere that are functional, so.
Ron, the challenge with the two-story buildings are the elevators
Correct.
and the fire code's the egress.
Yep.
And by the time you dedicate so much space to both ADA and fire code, you end up with a bunch of space that doesn't pay you rent. And that's the challenge when we're dealing with multi-story buildings. As much as we really would like some more multi-story buildings in the town of Farragut, if the market rates aren't there to pay the lease rates that can justify building a really expensive building, then and I think this is a good attempt at, at least giving us the look and feel of a two-story building. Obviously, we would love a two-story building, and I agree with Ron, but I'm trying to give Ron a little bit more guidance of why these
when you hit
two-story
them up-
buildings just are not economically feasible yet.
Still
Maybe
gonna
some-
push for it.
I mean, if we were in, the Gulch in downtown Nashville, yes, when you're getting, $70 a square foot in lease rates, maybe you could make two-story buildings work, but we're not there yet.
Correct. Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Oh,
I was just going to mention, when we submit again, there'll be a color rendering. You'll see it. I think from
Yes.
a conceptual standpoint, the brick, that's why if you go to the rear elevation that you had, if you change the rear elevation, just so you know, my understanding of the viewpoint was those pilasters that you're seeing and the soldier coursing, you're going to see you're going to see different colors of brick there. It's the whole idea is to break it down, make it not look like a one big long building. So you're going to do that with different color bricks.
Yeah, it's definitely broken up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you.
Hey, guys, you've got enough direction now? Okay.
We have no additional utilities.
Oh, thank you. Next item, citizens forum. Anybody signed up?
I have no one under citizen forum.
All right, time's approximately 7:14.